Vikes Now, Dustin Baker, the Tuesday, May 10th edition, talking about 5 surprising Vikings personnel who may not make the 53-man roster in September, so these could be surprise cuts. Disclaimer out the wazoo, these are not based on tips or, little hints that I've been given that these guys aren't going to make it. These are theories of surprising players who could get cut. So don't go tell people that, hey, Dustin Baker has on good authority that Alexander Madison's getting cut or something like that. Nope, these are all reasonably possible players who could be cut this summer from the 2022 Vikings. There's actually 6, but one is a little dicey, so I'm just keeping it at 5, but I'll reveal the 6th. So the first is center Garrett Bradbury. Remember, I don't have a fancy graphics department. I should scroll these or have a picture of him come up. I'm working with Skull Marketing, and they might help me spice up the show and make it more professional looking. We could get to graphics. I should have those. It should say it right over here, Garrett Bradbury. It should flash and all that. But he is the first one on my list. I'm going alphabetical. He would have a big dead cap hit. It'd be about 4-something million. So if the Vikings move on, they're going to take a little oomph into the cap from him. But here's the story with him. We've talked about him a few times on the show. He isn't very good. There's certain things he does good, like snapping the ball to the quarterback. Hooray for him. And run blocking, he's actually pretty decent. Pass protection, he is not good. And since, the last couple months, the new coaching staff has said, Bradbury's our guy. But I think that might just be until they find somebody who's better. And that is the goal if you're an all-in team, as these Vikings prescribe, that you want to get better. And having Bradbury at center as a pass protector is vomit-inducing. Unless they got something up their sleeve that can unlock him, and Zimmer and the guys just didn't get it, Bradbury could reasonably not be a part of the starting lineup because, grand scheme of things, $4 million and change dead cap isn't ideal, but it's also not gruesome. You saw where James Bradbury, the cornerback for the Giants, was let go with an $11 million dead cap hit. So it can be done. In this scenario, Ed Ingram would start at center. They would shift him over from his natural position, even though he played some center in college. Or they actually get down to brass tacks and sign J.C. Tretter, who we don't know if he's healthy, but, there's all kinds of theories that said Tretter should join this team. He has ties to Kwesi Adofo-Mensah from the Browns. His dad wants him to play for the Vikings. All this weird stuff that Tretter could reasonably be the center for 2022. So Bradbury's the first surprise cut. Next one, the guy right next to him, in theory and practice, Wyatt Davis. So Wyatt was drafted in the 3rd round of the 2021 NFL Draft. Rick Spielman allegedly, I think according to Courtney Cronin, ESPN, went rogue with this pick and said, I don't care what my scouts say. I'm drafting this guy because he was a winner at Ohio State, and he was fantabulous during the 2019 and 2020 season. So he took a flyer, bless his heart. The Zimmer coaching staff obviously wasn't too keen on Wyatt Davis because the man didn't play on offense at all in 2021. He did play a little bit of special teams, but who cares? So Davis is this huge mystery right now about, is this college performance eventually going to translate into NFL, a starting gig or stardom? Nobody knows because he hasn't played yet. The tape didn't look too great on him during the preseason last year. But suddenly, out of nowhere, the Vikings have a crowded house at guard, competing for the RG spot to hopefully get somebody once and for all that isn't shitty, is Jesse Davis, Wyatt Davis, Chris Reed, Oli Udoh, and Ed Ingram. And I guess there's a planet where all 5 of those guys could make the team and you just be deep at right guard and left guard and center. But I think more realistically, Wyatt Davis could be a surprise cut after he had such high promise, at least according to mock drafts and fans at this time last year, because he didn't play last year, and these other guys in the battle might be better than him. And his dead cap is negligible, like it was $100,000 or $200,000 or something like that. For NFL speak, isn't much. So Garrett Bradbury, possible roster cut. Offensive line mate, Wyatt Davis. Be kind of a sad ending to what we thought was a solution for right guard, but it could happen. Next one will sock you in the gut. That's C.J. Ham. And he would have a $1 point something million dead cap hit which you can circumvent. But the problem with Ham, and he's not a problem, but the system the Vikings could run doesn't fancy fullbacks. Go look at the roster from the Super Bowl champion 2021 Los Angeles Rams. You ain't going to find any fullbacks. McVay didn't use them. So either O'Connell carves out a space for Ham. He also plays special teams, so keep that in mind. And he just says the hell with the McVay style. We're going to use a fullback. And then Ham is safe because he deserves to be safe. He's a brilliant football player at his spot. Or there could be a surprise summer cut where we realize, all right, there was never a plan to have Ham as the fullback because the Ramsian way, the O'Connell way, is not to use fullbacks. The proof is in the pudding from the depth chart of the Rams last year. Jake Vargas was also signed about a week and a half ago, and he's a fullback, so perhaps this theory isn't done in good faith. But I'm just looking at all of the potential, because there's always a couple surprise cuts for every team every summer, especially the Vikings, where you're like, oh, okay, I didn't see that coming, but it makes sense. These are those kind of picks. Ham fits the criterion. The next is Greg Joseph. So Minnesota signed Gabe Burchich, I think that's how you say it, I'll find out soon, from Oklahoma in an acquisition that sort of fell out of the sky last week to a 3-year contract. He was a decent kicker at Oklahoma. He kicked extra points wonderfully. Let's get some kudos for that. We need that for the Vikings team. It wasn't terribly accurate at Oklahoma, but wasn't bad. And then his long is 56, so he's got the boot for the gig. But the mere fact they signed him for 3 years indicates that Greg Joseph, if he gets beat out this summer by Gabe, he may not work here anymore. Joseph had a redemptive tale last season that was noteworthy. Week 2, wet the bed. Vikings lost. Season tumbled accordingly. But then, ever so gently, with chip shot game winners, he got it back in everybody's good graces. And that takes some mental fortitude to do so. So I'm not endorsing a Greg Joseph waive or release. But I'm saying it can make sense because you have a kicker with a higher upside who's got a clean slate that perhaps once Kwesi Adolpho-Mensah and Kevin O'Connell evaluate these two guys this summer, they say, hey, this Oklahoma guy, Gabe Burchich, I don't know how to say it yet. Maybe he just beats out Joseph, and then on the ash heap of Vikings kicker history, there was Joseph, who wasn't too bad, but the new leadership preferred a different way with a guy with higher upside. So Bradbury, Wyatt Davis, C.J. Ham, Greg Joseph. That's 4. The next one is Chris Reed. Now, he's right there in this offensive line battle. I mentioned him a few minutes ago. According to Pro Football Focus, he might be the best candidate to start at right guard. Now, Ed Ingram hasn't been adjudicated by Pro Football Focus in the pros, so Ed Ingram, based on where he was drafted, despite the baggage that he's bringing with, Ed Ingram could be the guy to start, and he should be the guy to start because he was drafted with second-round capital. However, if he takes a long time, like Wyatt Davis did last year, or they put Ingram at center, then you're back to Reed, Wyatt Davis, Jesse Davis, and Oli Udoh. And I think Oli Udoh will swing back into a backup tackle, which is what he is, and then perhaps the penalties will lessen. So in that situation, the tackles would be Darisaw, Brian O'Neill, Blake Brandel, and Oli Udoh. That's fine because Oli Udoh is a good backup tackle. But Chris Reed, he could be the odd man out. He was signed for very little guaranteed money. If they did cut him this summer, it won't hardly cost anything, at least for a penalty. And we just don't know right now who's going to emerge as the victor for the RG1 tryst that will happen in July and August. But Reed, because there's not much committed to him, he could be a surprise summer camp cut. And it's only surprising because for about a week, guys like me said, hey, this guy is good. He can be the solution. But if Ed Ingram's better, bada bing. You upgrade, you say sayonara, or you can go play for the Broncos or something like that. All right, I said I have 5 into 6. Here is the 6th. I'm not putting this one on the record in the sense that I fully endorse it or think it's going to happen, but it's Alexander Madison, and here's why. He's another guy that can be jettisoned for pennies on the dollar. If you see on your smartphone in early August the Vikings waive Alexander Madison, it hardly costs them anything, and then he can go forth and be an RB1 or RB2 somewhere else. But the Vikings also drafted Ty Chandler in the 5th round a couple weeks ago from the 2022 NFL Draft. And he catches the football like a wide receiver more so than Alexander Madison. So does Cook. So perhaps the vision for this O'Connell offense is to not have a hurdling bowling ball type as Madison is, which is fantastic. And then they want guys who are more dynamic with their skill set. I will tell you that Ty Chandler is a better catcher of the football than Alexander Madison. Madison doesn't suck at that craft, but he's not known for it. He's a guy that will hurdle you and then get you short yardage so long as it isn't 4th and goal against the Seattle Seahawks in prime time. So if Chandler's emergence at rookie minicamp and then July and the preseason games, if he looks just as talented or more suited for an O'Connell offense, Madison could be the odd man out. Because without Madison, you have Dalvin Cook, who ain't going anywhere. Then you'd have RB2 Ty Chandler, RB3 Kene Nwangu, who we still have to figure out if he's more than a kick returner. We'll take it with the kick returning. Don't get me wrong. Keep him here forever if you want. But I don't know if he's a running back you can hand the ball to every down. Probably not. Otherwise, he would have been drafted sooner in the last draft. But we shall see. And then AJ Rose is there, the preseason god. And then all these fullbacks. They'll take up roster spots with Ham and Vargas if they're kept on the roster. But there is a scenario where Madison would be the odd man out in favor of a younger running back, Ty Chandler, and the guy who's known for catching the football as part of his tool set. So let's recap them. Garrett Bradbury, possible surprising cut if Ed Ingram or J.C. Treader emerges. Wyatt Davis, he's been the unicorn for this team for over a year now because nobody knows if he's actually good. If he isn't, see you later. It's surprising and noteworthy because he was supposed to be the solution at this time last year. C.J. Ham, everybody's number one in everybody's hearts. He's from where I live in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. He went to college at Augustana. And if the Vikings don't choose to use fullbacks like Mike Zimmer did, Ham could be a sayonara transaction. Greg Joseph, we shall see. This summer kicking battle will be fun if they go with their younger guy and Gabe B. Or they say, you know what, Gabe B., you can live on the practice squad until Joseph is ready to depart. And then Chris Reed, who, by all accounts, by Pro Football Focus, by the metrics, probably deserves to be a starting right guard somewhere. However, if Ed Ingram, just like the center conversation, if he emerges as the RG1, then Reed is really just a depth guy, and we already have depth guys. Jesse Davis, Uli Udo. Oh, is there one more that I'm forgetting? No, I think I've mentioned ball with Wyatt Davis and now Ingram. And then keep an eye on Madison. There is a school of thought that says the reason Chandler was drafted for a reason to supplant Alexander Madison, who can go play somewhere else. In the end, I would say maybe 1 or 2 of these come to fruition. Not all 5, not all 6. That's not what this show was. It was one's surprise cuts this summer that would check boxes based on a small dead cap hit. That is all I have for Tuesday. I will be back on Wednesday with a new Vikings topic for Vikes Now and Skol, baby.